Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Iraia Arabaolaza, and I'm going to be talking about what lies beneath Ayr Academy, or what laid in Ayr Academy, because the work per se was conducted in 2015. In 2015, Guard Archaeology was commissioned by Keir Construction to carry out an evaluation in Ayr Academy on a site that they were going to be developed, and the evaluation revealed a series of archaeological features, so another further mitigation work was required and an excavation was carried out. The site is located in Ayr, in a river terrace in a former raised beach, which has good views all around the perimeter, and it was in close proximity to the River Ayr. It's a Google Earth image. The site is being developed. It's here. As you can see, the river bounds the site, the east, the south, and the west, and to the north is the Ayr racecourse. What we found was a palisade site with features ranging from the late Mesolithic to the late Bronze Age. This part of the Ayr Academy actually has been recently been published, so if you will be interested in that particular site or era of the site, you can go to the archaeology reports online and check it out. But what I'm going to be talking about is a total of 26 fire pits, and I'm not going to talk about the prehistorical features. So we found a total of 26 fire pits, which seems to be arranged in an organized structural manner. They were some of them were forming two parallel rows, separated 30 meters apart and roughly east to west, with another row linking these two parallel lines in the west side. Obviously, we were limited. We don't know if this rectangle will carry on this way. We were limited by the site that we were allowed to expose. Generally, the fire pits were separated 30 meters apart. 10 meters apart. But some of them were, as you can see, farther apart or closer to each other. And as you can see, they were organized. They had a uniformity, and they had an organized arrangement. They were dug in similar manner, and they were probably used for the same function. So the fire pits, they were dug into the subsoil, which was sand and gravel, and most of them they formed this figure of 8 shape. Their measurements range between 0.52 to 2.8 meters in length and 0.4 to 1.87 meters in width, and they were between 50 millimeters and 0.7 meters in depth. They had some distinctive functions, which I'm going to talk now. Was one area which was used as an oven, and the other area which was used as an ash pit. Some of the fire pits, they were, as you can see, much more smaller, and the distinctive function between the oven and the ash pit, it was not as clear, although it's still, you can see it, where charcoal is concentrated, that will have in the oven, and the other bit will be just the ovens. They were recognized by the scorching of the subsoil, and they have alternating charcoal lenses, which probably indicate the in situ fire, and they had silting episodes and different episodes of burning, as you can see. Most of them they had an east orientation, but some of them did not. Some of them they were in groups, in which one of them would have an east orientation and the other one had been, but it's because they were part of other fire pits the ovens are east orientation, apart from this one here. This fire pit didn't have an east orientation because this one had, and in here this fire pit was the east orientation, and this one this one did not. But it's because they were part of a bigger fire pit. This one is another one, is a group, and these two were ovens where this was the ash pit. Evidence of clay was found in this oven. This one was in the center, but this was just on the cut of the oven, which indicates that the fire pit was probably lined. So the ash pit. The ash pit is this bit here. It was more rectangular in shape and elongated, and it was filled by the rake out material that they cleared out from the oven. And this one, you can see this will be the oven, and this one is a bit more rectangular and elongated in shape. This is a section, so this will have been the oven, and this is where they piling up all the material once the oven is fired and cleared out. In general, both ovens, this one we call it Mickey Mouse. This will be the oven, and this is the other oven, and this will be the ash pit. As I said, they were not that deep. They were mostly the base was flat, but this one it was particularly deep, and it's probably because they had two ovens to deal with. Similar cases, similar fire pits were found also in Kintor, which is another similar site to this one. This the prettiest one, I guess. It's like the one that was the most elaborate. It was this oven, and as you can see, it had a dry stone lining. This is where the oven will be, and this is where they pile up all the rake out material. We found charcoal in between the stones, which indicates that it had burned in situ. And here, that will be the oven, and after in here we found an earlier pit, which will probably explain what this dry stone structure is in here. We don't know what the function was of those dry stones, but we think that because of the presence of this earlier pit, they may have put it just to make it a wee bit stronger and easier for them to use it. The botanical evidence suggests that they were using the woodland resources, including scrub, tiles, wood, peat, and headland. Obviously, we did find a lot of charcoal, and most of it was highly degraded, and which it goes with the rake out material. It explains why it was redeposited. Some pits produce grain. It wasn't in a very high quantity. They were mostly barley. Although the largest quantity of barley that we found in pit 404, when we dated that particular grain, it produced a Middle Bronze Age date. It's like not what you want, but we did find the spell wheat found in a fire pit which was dated, and that did produce a Roman date. I was really interested on hearing in your talk that you found that spell wheat too. That's cool. So the fire clay evidence, as I pointed out before, we did find fire clay, which was very distinctive for the fire clay that we found linked to the prehistoric features, because the composition of it and the color was distinctive. As I said before, there were evidence of some ovens being clay with a lining, and some of the fragments were also found in the center, and as this picture shows, some fragments had branches imprint on them, which suggests that they may have had a wooden structure with the clay molded on them. They did have like a dome shape to it too. So when we sent for the radiocarbon dating, that was when we got really excited, because most of them, they came in the similar range. They were coming between 2 BC to 230 AD, but they did kind of overlap into the Flavian period. As I said before, we did have some problems with some of the dating. when we dated the grain from this pit, it was Bronze Age, but due to the nature of the site being a palisade, is not unusual. It will have been a later inclusion or contamination. The other problem that we encountered during the radiocarbon dating was in this pit, the 180. We sent 2 radiocarbon dating samples from that pit, and basically the upper field gave us a date of late Bronze Age, but the charcoal lens, one of those alternative charcoal lenses that we found that it was an earlier field, gave us a Roman date, and the upper field that we dated, that they gave us the Bronze Age date, had also some prehistoric ceramics, and also a shale bangle with it, which was the only finds dated, to any found in this particular fire pits features, apart from the grains. So it does imply that that feature, especially the top, had contamination throughout. That's why we were getting those dates. So similar sites that they have been found in Scotland, the Lochland Three Bridges, the Kintor site with all these different faces that they had. I cannot pronounce that. It's called Irhendre, but it's Caernarvon, Wales. And the most recent one, it is also quite similar to Ayr Academy, that I was really excited to hear about, is the mill timber that they found in Aberdeenshire, which is also, they found 90 fire pits, and they is dated to the Flavian time. We did not find evidence of a ditch defining the camp. As I said earlier, we did have some restrictions because we could just extend as much as the site needed. We couldn't go and go and go as you wish. Another thing was when the evaluation was carried out, I don't know if you can see it, but there was tons of, we had topsoil, and after a massive intermediate deposit, and until you kind of reached the features, it's like a meter high, which I think is probably due to the we were around here, and this is a lovely house, Craigie House, and we were where the Craigie Park would have been, so probably there was landscaping in the past. There is no, while I was reading the literature about the Roman camps, and especially the marching camps, they always talk about the ditch, but you don't need to have a ditch per se. There are sites that they don't have any ditch. Kintor had a ditch. The fire pits that they were found in Kintor, they were found inside the ditch. But other sites than the high technology, it was close to a fort, it didn't have a ditch. The one I just talk about, the one in Mill Timber, they didn't find any ditch, and they went, they were trying for it, but they couldn't find it. So it could be that it doesn't have a ditch. Some authors also say that sometimes the Romans will not do the ditch, and they will have earthworks and banks instead as a manner of defense. And I think if that was the case, it may be that with the landscaping occurring in Craigie Park, those may have gone and disappear, or maybe we just don't see because of the restriction. And also it's they could have potentially used the river air as a form of boundary natural defense. That's my own crazy thought. Here is another shot. I just like this. You can see, I'm just kind of pointing out to this. I thought that it was really interesting, the fact that Ayr racecourse was just on the north of it, because some of the Roman camps had been found kind of where the race, in race courses, which would suggest that maybe they were looking for a flat, which we use it for the race course, but they would have used for their own purpose. So a similar idea. So the dating suggests Roman activity. Tacitus describes in his book that in the 5th year of the campaign, Agricola was with his forces going along, facing Ireland, which implies that he was in the west coast of Scotland. Some authors think that it was the Mull of Kintyre in Port Patrick, but others think that it could be the coast of Ayrshire, Galway, which it kind of lingers, it kind of corresponds to what we are finding in Ayr. The site is located near a river, which is not strange. Other sites, the Girvan, also next to a river, and there is all the other ones in around Dumfries and Galway that they favor these coastal and river estuaries. I kind of like Agricola will have had the army and the fleet will have given a support to the army during this. So you can just, and the site where it is close to the river, it will give an access probably to the fleet. It's a strategic location. As I said earlier, there is a layout and orientation of the camp tents. When comparing to the Roman manuals, the Iginus, it talks about the pediatura and the size, where the area they will give to each legion, the centuria, and it talks about the 120 feet by 30 feet, this is Roman feet, not your feet. And this measurement compared to the distance between this row and this row, they do kind of match, because it was around 30 meters, and that would have been when I try to convert it, 35 meters. And obviously, as I said earlier, we don't know what happened here, but when you see the length of this, which was 65 meters, is not that far off from the 78 needed for all the tents of the centurion, the centurion tent. You can go crazy with the measurements. I did. But it's nice when it kind of matches. So the fire pits, they were defined by a scorched area, the oven, and an area where they pile up all the rake-out material. They had that figure of 8. None of the pits were intercutting each other, and they were mostly orientated to the east. The fact that they were not cutting into each other, it suggests that they were either contemporary, they were dug at the same time, or maybe they were visible, so they may have been, close enough during the marching. In the presence of fire, clear evidence of a roofed open structure, especially with those lovely branch imprints on them, and we're thinking that it's most likely used for cooking. And as there is very scarce finds of grains. This is what it has been found in other sites as well. When you read about the Kintor, the site in Wales, they didn't find many, so it obviously hasn't been used as a drying kiln or any metal working. Oh shit, sorry. So, conclusion. The Ayr Academy adds to the archaeological corpus in the southwest of Scotland, which is an area in Scotland which is quite bare of Roman sites. And it gives an opportunity to understand the landscape, and it gives an opportunity to kind of think of where the sites are located, to think where we could find potentially other sites. As Beverly was saying before, location. This is a map which shows the probable and possible camps, and this is with Ayr. I have to point out, when looking at the distance between Girvan and Ayr, I forgot to say before, it is kind of like a marching distance for a Roman army marching distance between Girvan and Ayr, which is very interesting. Thank you very much for listening.